The CPI data releases tomorrow. The bonds and silver took a plunge, and the Qs and the SPY does not know what to do. Hello, everyone. This is Rice Finance here, and welcome back to another Monday Market Chat. Well, let's dive right into this. Let's start with the Qs. So, I don't know if you guys remember what I said last week, but pretty much exactly what I said, that we were just going to see in this big consolidation. However, for those of you who don't know, the CPI data releases tomorrow. And that CPI data is going to really determine on where the market's going to go, I believe, for the next month. So this is going to be key. The CPI data is going to be very key to see where the whole month of, I believe, December into the new year is going to end up being. Now, I will say this. Judging based off of the Qs, they are all the way on top of their indicators. Here's the top Bollinger Band. On the daily chart, on the weekly chart, it hit the top Bollinger Band, and then on the monthly chart, it's hitting the top Bollinger Band. So unless if this CPI data comes out crazy, crazy as in deflation, a crazy deflation as if we're having less inflation, I don't foresee this rally to continue on the SPY. It's a little bit of a consolidation, but a little bit of a rally as well. I don't see how this thing can continue. It's gotta start to slow down and consolidate, bring all the indicators a little bit upwards and slow them down a bit. It's going way too fast, way too quickly. However, again, it's more of a consolidation movement. But if the data comes out really good for the markets, meaning that really serious deflation, this thing's going to rocket. This will determine where the market's going to end up being, as well as the SPY and the TLT, and you'll see a bunch of things will end up rocketing. But the Qs for now, way up on the indicators. It's all going to determine on that 8:30 in the morning CPI data release to see where these markets are going to go. Let's go into the SPY. Same thing over here. Slow sort of consolidation, a little bit of a petering movement here and there, but honestly not much movement. Again, the SPYs are going to be all the way up on their Bollinger Bands. I see that these don't really have much more further up to go. We have to wait and see what happens. And again, I still see this gap on the SPY. I'm still thinking that this thing needs to be filled. So I wouldn't be surprised if the CPI comes out not as great, and then the markets retrace back down to this kind of level at the 440, the between the 441 and the 445, I would say. So I wouldn't be surprised to see some sort of a retrace down. I believe that this is going to be determining if the markets are going to be going further down or if they're going to be going up. Let's go into the VIX. The VIX has really been slowing, consolidating, really not been moving at all. This thing is ripened for a move. As you can see, the DMA crossed over, RSA crossed over. I wouldn't be surprised if this started another crazy upwards trend. A little bit of a push upwards just to kind of get it out of this consolidation movement. So again, it's going to be determined on tomorrow. Will the data come out great or will the data come out bad? Who knows? But I think if it comes out bad, I don't think we're going to see these huge movements in the volatility index. I think, again, it's just going to stay in that sort of consolidation movement. However, if the data comes out really bad for the markets, I think this thing's going to rocket. I think we could see this thing doubling in a couple of days. So just something to look out for, depending on how the actual numbers come out tomorrow. Now, I don't know, for those of you who have been watching the channel, I actually added a new indicator here. It's called the 200-day moving average. And the reason I added this is actually for the bonds. As you could see here, the reason the bonds ended up taking a dive was because it hit that 200-day moving average. Now, I actually have this in my app, but I forgot to add it onto the desktop app. So I saw this coming from a mile away. I knew that this was going to have to hit this and slow down. However, I forgot to mention it on my channel, and I forgot to add it onto the indicator. So that's my apologies for you guys. However, I do see this thing slowly sort of consolidating, especially that it hit this. I thought we would see some green days, but as you can see, these candles are still, or red days, but as you can see, these candles are still green. I wouldn't be surprised. All these indicators are roaring upwards. I wouldn't be surprised to see some sort of a consolidation over here. And then depending on what the CPI data comes out tomorrow, I wouldn't be surprised to see a continuation of this thing. There's no stopping this this bond movement at this point. I think it's got to get back to around the 105 level again, because at this point it's just way overblown over fear. Basically, it wasn't even any legitimate reason why the bonds got blown down. So at this point, I don't see any reason these bonds don't stop, um, except if the CPI data comes out bad. So that's one thing to look out for. But again, you could see some sort of consolidation should happen during this week. Um, um, and then maybe a rocket upwards and try and retest to this 200 day. And I believe it's going to break through it on this second run. So let's see what happens, and let's see what the data comes out tomorrow to see if this thing could really break through it. I think if the data comes out good, I wouldn't be surprised to see if this thing's up like a 2 or 3% day, and uh, and the and it breaks right through this 200-day moving average. I would not be surprised to see that. One thing, just something to look out for on the bonds. Let's move on to oil. So I think, as I said last week, oil wasn't looking too great, and there it is, a little fall down on the candles. You could see right now that it's sort of in this consolidation movement. However, I wouldn't. I would stay away from oil. Not just personal advice. That's what I'm personally doing. I'm staying away from oil because not financial information, because I'm not legally allowed to provide that. But um, on a personal note, this looks like in a bearish trend. As you can see, it's kind of petering downward. The way I like to see if stuff is in a bearish or bullish trend is I actually like to look at the Bollinger Bands. And you could see when it hits the Bollinger Bands, that if you get that one wick up top all the way down, it hits that or that top Bollinger Band, that's really a bearish sign. What you'll see in a bullish trend is you'll see it constantly keep hitting this top, as you can see right here in this bullish trend right here. Hit that top Bollinger Band, top Bollinger Band, top Bollinger Band, and you're seeing these green candles. You're not seeing these wicks. If I zoom in, you see these wicks right up top. A wick, if you see, is the line down, and it looks like a bullish trend all the way up, and then a line down. You're seeing on when it hits it, it's green, 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 green all the way up. There's none of these weird wicks that come out from there. Not none of this. So as you can see, I believe that this is fully in a bearish trend, and you could see the opposite happen because even right here, you see it's going to hit the bottom Bollinger Band in a bearish trend, and it's not going to be leaving these wicks really. So, and you can see right here when it left the wick, it consolidated, and now you can see it's not really leaving too much of a wick around here. A little bit and a little bit of consolidation, but I foresee this continuing in its bearish trend. So just something to look out for on the oil. Let's go right into the silver. SLV, ticker symbol. This really took a dive. This was what, a 12% move this week? It's crazy. Look at how much this thing plummeted. Honestly, this thing's got to go down to this bottom Bollinger Band. Right now, it's in the middle of nowhere. There's nothing really stopping it except on the weekly chart. No, there's nothing really stopping this thing from going back down to the bottom Bollinger Band and consolidating a little bit. Maybe it's going to hit back this 2059. Is that what it was showing on the daily? What's this? Yeah, 2044. So I expect it to kind of sit around the 2060 area and consolidate a little bit because now it's going to start hitting some resistance. Especially, I see it hit this VWAP here and it kind of dipped below but kind of pushed back on the weekly and on the monthly. It looks like it's going to hit this mid Bollinger Band. So I wouldn't be surprised to see some sort of good consolidation on the silver here, and then maybe a roaring uptrend back to new highs if new weekly highs, I would say, more up that 2337 if we see some sort of a bullishness to the actual trend for the markets tomorrow, depending on the data. So the silver is one thing to look out for. Silver might be a place you might want to start thinking of parking your money. I know I'm personally thinking about it. I'm not going to give you guys any advice though. I'm just saying me personally. I will personally be looking into putting some money into silver as this seems to be sort of a consolidation. I believe that this is almost a bottom, maybe another 30 cents or so, so maybe another percent or two, and then maybe then I think a consolidation more pushing upwards to the upwards trend. So that's going to bring me on to gold, and gold is probably in the same boat as you saw this huge movement downward, a little bit of a consolidation I would expect based on the weekly charts, and it has some more room down to go. So gold I would be careful with because you could see a little bit more room to go. I wouldn't be surprised if this goes down another 3 or 4%. But then again, I think we're going to consolidate and maybe go to this bullish upwards trend. The DMA is clicking down on the daily, but on the weekly, it looks to be roaring upwards. So I would expect to see some sort of a consolidation now. I think the gold and the silver are in consolidation movements. I don't think they're going to be going much further down, but at the same time, I don't think they're going to be going much further up. I think you have another week or two before they start to find the direction that they want to end up going. However, I am leaning more towards the bullish side on both gold and silver. Let's dive right into wheat now. Wheat ended up taking that dive. As I said last week, I said it heated up way too quickly, way too fast, hit that top Bollinger Band, and then guess what? Plummeted. You could also see it was about to hit that 200-day moving average over there. So as you can see, it hit that top of Bollinger Band and then traded right back down to the mid Bollinger Band. And there we go. RSI flipped over. DMA still kind of ripping forward, so it still shows like it might continue its movement. Might just be some sort of a consolidation, but heated up way too quickly, way too fast. So I don't know what to really think about this chart. I will say that um, it doesn't look like it looks like it's consolidating with that 5-day moving average. However, it doesn't really like to stay too much around that. I think it more stays along the mid Bollinger Bands, and the upper Bollinger Band seems to be going on the weekly. I think for this week, we see a little bit more of a downwards trend on the wheat. Um, Maybe it breaks to this 575, which would be another quarter of a percent, and then maybe a little bit flush downwards a little bit as you can see the volatility starting to kick up again. But I don't expect to see some massive movements from the wheat. I'm assuming the same thing with the corn. Yep, same thing with the corn. However, this looks more bullish in my opinion. It looks like we might have hit a bottom here. I wouldn't be surprised if the wheat and the corn retrace back to their lows here and then sort of do a double bottom and then a continuation, just because I think it got heated up way too quickly, way too fast, both of these things. So it needs to kind of slow down, bring back the indicators, and then start to kind of push back upwards. So just one more thing to look out for. So I think my overall consensus is it's really going to depend on what happens tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be your main day. I think it's going to determine the whole next month of trading. I will say this. A lot of the times the data could come out good or bad, and then Jerome Powell will come out and he'll say something, and then it totally changes the way the markets look at it. So it really comes down to whatever the Fed ends up saying or reiterates based on their notes and whatever they want to tell the public and whatever way they want to put it. So your key is going to be looking out for what Jerome Powell or whoever other puppet he sends out to say stuff, and then whatever direction he ends up looking at, and they end up going. I believe that that's the way the market's going to trade in the future. Um, my professional opinion, I foresee the CPI data coming out low. I think that that would be bullish for the market. I think that the Qs are going to rock it. I think the SPY is going to rock it. I think the TLT is going to rock it. And I think silver and gold and wheat and corn commodities are kind of going to stabilize a little bit. I don't think the VIX is going to rocket downwards though, because I think it's going to be a fake out initially. I think it's going to rocket upwards. It's going to be a fake out. And then it's going to consolidate, and then the VIX is going to rocket on that consolidation. That's my prediction for this week. I'll see you next week, see if I'm right. But for now, that's going to be it for me. If you guys have any questions, feel free to subscribe, hit that like button, leave your questions in the comments below. That's going to be it for me, though. Have a great day and take care. Bye bye.